was appointed to the Senate in 1997. He's born and raised in Anderson, Indiana. He graduated from Anderson High School, has 3 daughters, 5 grandkids, practices law in Anderson, and is the City of Anderson attorney. So, Senator Lanen, would you mind coming up, please?
Thank you, Jean. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Nice introduction. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. First and foremost, you were expecting someone much better than me, I know, with Mayor Broderick. And as has been mentioned, though, he has had this family emergency come up. So he truly regrets not being able to be here. He was looking forward to coming and sharing his thoughts about the club and about what's going on in Anderson with you. He did take a few minutes to sort of brief me on exactly what his message should be. So I do have some information from him that I'm looking forward to giving to you. Before I go too much further, though, he certainly wants to thank the club for all the great work that it does for our community. And you were talking about Chickens for Charity. I helped on that. I purchased a meal, and that was just last week, I guess, right? And it was one of the better meals I had last week. Well, I don't mind telling you that. But I also have to take, I guess, a speaker's prerogative and to recognize, he recognized me, I'll recognize him, my cousin, Steve Holslider, back there, who is he has achieved something that I never will, and that is he's a governor. So I want to, I'm very jealous of you, Steve, to a degree, let me put it that way. Okay, thank you. Let me just say this. Oh, the mayor said, Lanen, if there's one thing you don't forget to do is to do the proclamation. So I'm going to get that out of the way right away. In fact, I think I'll ask Steve, you're eating, but as governor, would you like to come up here? And also, Jean, would you please come up as the president of the club? And this is, I got to say how honored I am to be here today, because I believe today is, in fact, the day for the 100th anniversary of the Lions Clubs International. And on this occasion, Mayor Broderick has asked me to deliver and to read to you this proclamation that he has made throughout the city of Anderson. And it reads as follows from the office of the mayor. Whereas June 1, 2017 marks the 100-year anniversary of the International Lions Club and the 95th year anniversary for the Anderson Noon Lions Club, and whereas it is fitting and proper to accord official recognition to the ideals and values this organization provides to our community, and whereas 100 years ago, founder Melvin Jones urged his local business club to reach beyond business issues and address the betterment of their communities and the world, and we recognize your preservation of his mission. And whereas, as mayor, I would like to show my appreciation to the community outreach of the Anderson's Noon Lions Club that allows the community to grow. Programs such as Chickens for Charity, vision screening for Anderson's elementary schools, and being a supporter of Leader Dogs, cancer research, and having here in Indiana the largest eye bank in the United States. Therefore, I, Thomas J. Broderick, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Anderson and the state of Indiana, do hereby proclaim the week of May 28th to June 3rd, 2017, Anderson Noon Lions Club Week. And I ask our citizens to follow the example of the Anderson Noon Lions Club and work together to bring our community to its full potential and live by the Anderson Noon Lions Club motto, we serve. And it's signed by the mayor of the city of Anderson, Thomas J. Broderick, Jr. So there it is. So thank you on his behalf. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. So there you can tell, and oh, by the way, that proclamation signed by the mayor was put together by Sammy Pankel, who's our public information officer, and who came with me. So you did a great job on that, Sammy. Thank you. And Sammy's fairly new. You've been, what, maybe 2 months there, or not even that?
1 month.
1 month. Okay, 1 month, whatever. It just seems like a week. That's right. Okay, the mayor's asked me to quickly go over a little presentation of some of the things that are going on in the city of Anderson. And I'll be glad to take whatever questions that you might have at the end of this, if you think that's appropriate, and do the best I can. I certainly don't have all the information that the mayor has. Some things that I'm going to mention to you, he's been right there doing on behalf of our community. But I'll do the best I can in terms of telling you the important things that he wanted me to deliver to you as members of our community as to things that are going on in the city of Anderson. And there's a lot going on. There's a lot of good things going on. Some of these things I'm sure you've probably seen in the paper here recently. The mayor has been on several trips, overseas trips, and he did want me to talk about that and to give you some brief information about those trips. He has been busy. In the month of April, he visited the country of Italy. And you may say, well, why would the mayor of the city of Anderson go to a country like Italy? Well, as probably most of you do know, we have Italian companies right here in the city of Anderson that are hiring people, are conducting business. The fact of the matter is that we do live now in a worldwide economy, and the world just seems to be getting smaller and smaller by virtue of technology. As we all know, we can send a message by way of email or Facebook or whatever, and it's immediately received overseas by somebody. So the world is getting smaller, and we have to be willing to participate in the global economy, as it's called, and Anderson is doing that. We have Italian companies such as Cermax, which is, of course, located out there in one of the old guide locations, and they make the plastic housing cover for the pumps for washing machines. One of their major customers is Whirlpool. So we also have Italpolina, which is a fertilizer company going to be located off of Scatterfield, just west of the Purdue Polytechnic building out there on Scatterfield. We have Technoplast, which is located in the flagship. All of those are Italian-based companies. So when the mayor made the trip over there, and he went with Greg Winkler, the City of Anderson Economic Development Director, and also Rob Sparks, who works for the Corporation for Economic Development here, the Regional Corporation for Economic Development. They ended up visiting with those companies over there to assure them that Anderson stands ready with a commitment to them to assist them in doing business here, to help them employ people in our city, that we invite them to look at expanding their operations if possible here in our city. They also visited with a number of other companies. Some of those I can't mention, but suffice it to say that in total, the mayor and the other folks visited a total of 7 cities. Those included the cities of Reggio, Malia, Bologna, Modena, and Cittadella, all with the idea of hopefully developing a contact that may result in those folks getting over here to see what we can offer them in the city of Anderson. And in fact, he asked me to share this with you. I can't give you the names, but within the next couple of weeks, there will be a company that has committed already to making a trip here to Anderson to see what we have to offer to them. And there's another company that they're expecting to come within a very short period of time. So that was what happened in the month of April in terms of economic development overseas, with the Mayor Broderick being involved in every one of those meetings. And, you may think, oh, that sounds like a great time to get to go to Italy. But I can tell you, I saw the mayor just a couple of days after he got back, and he was totally worn out. It was pretty much business, as you can tell, when you've got 7 cities you're trying to get to in 1 week. Those visits were made. He was on the go. He was busy. In May, there was a trip made to Japan. There again, we have Japanese firms that are doing business here in the city of Anderson. Those include, of course, more recently, NTN, which is the producer of ball bearings for drive shafts. They also have operations down in Columbus, Indiana. And we were fortunate enough to get them to come to Anderson here, and they're looking at possibly, once their expansion occurs, because they've formed a second company now called NTK, which is it's a partnership with NTN and also 2 other Japanese companies, Takeo and Nutrion, together, we're looking at, the possibility of employment figures of up to 500 to 600 jobs in these manufacturing facilities. We also have here GTI, which the parent company of that is Moriroku. They make plastic for dashboards for Honda, among other companies. We also have the Kuhn company, which is located out the Flagship. And again, these are all Japanese-based companies. So when the mayor made his visit in May to Japan, he met with 9 companies in that trip. Again, it was a fairly short visit, a little over a week. Again, we can't mention names, but I can tell you that one of those companies, and it's a company which has looked at Anderson in the past, a recontact was made, and they're showing interest in Anderson again. So that's the type of good news that we have from those type of trips. There was another trip that was recently made where the mayor and a couple other folks from the city visited with some prospects for an important part of the city of Anderson, which is the Nickel Avenue corridor, as it's called, on the west side of Anderson. And this sort of weaves into not just economic development, but also our community development and our rehabilitation efforts in Anderson to revitalize areas of the city of Anderson that we know are desperate in terms of some growth and some economic development. And they've had success in that. And you might remember a couple of months ago, the city did enter into a contract with the Buxton Group. And the Buxton Group was hired for the sole purpose of looking at that corridor and saying, what can we do? What are the type of businesses that might make sense for that corridor? And let's develop a strategy then to how we can go directly to those type of companies and say, well, you look at this area and show data and show information that will entice them to believe that that west side of the city of Anderson is something where there is potential. And I can tell you that they've had meetings recently where they've talked to restaurants, they've talked to other retail companies about locating there. There's also, of course, some environmental challenges along that corridor. And the city has recently received some studies that have laid out some strategies and some options in terms of how to deal with that pollution, quite frankly, that's there. Right on the corner of Nickel and Rabel Avenue, there used to be a Speedway. I don't mind mentioning the company. It was there. They had their sign up. Speedway, that was there for a number of years. And many, many years ago, over 20 years ago now, they basically abandoned that site. Well, and there's some pollution there. So we've got to deal with that. We've got to get a strategy together to make that sort of we've got to clean it up. We've got to make it so that it doesn't just be sort of a cloud, if you will, literally and figuratively, that hangs over that whole type of an area. So there are some challenges there, but I think there is a real commitment. I can tell you there is a commitment by the city through Mayor Broderick and through the Anderson Redevelopment Commission, which has recently said that that corridor is going to be one of their priorities. And they've included it within their tax incremental finance district so that they can hopefully generate the finances that will be needed to turn that and reposition that area of the city. Now, in economic development, the mayor wanted me to also say it's not all about, trying to just bring new businesses here or overseas businesses. We are interested in the businesses we have here. We are working with those businesses. A couple of businesses you may not have heard about, but they have been here, and they are helping us in growing our economy. ALA Trucking, which has moved into the old Carter Lumber area off of Martin Luther King. And they've located their business there, and they're a growing business, and they're very, very excited about the prospects of growing that business. The CleanCo company here in Anderson is ready to move into the old Auto World out on Broadway, where Mary Jamerson had her operations, and it's sat empty now for several months, but they're ready to move into that area. Recently, the city has extended tax abatement to Barber Manufacturing because it's added equipment, another line of equipment, to their operations. The City Council is getting ready to consider a request for a tax abatement for what was formerly known as Quality Printing out on Broadway. It's now known as One Point. And then finally, recently, KMG Home Healthcare, located on 38th Street, has announced plans to expand its operations and to add folks to their business. We also see the potential for growth on the north side of the city of Anderson. The Peyton Wells buildings that I know we've all familiar with, and they've sat empty for a number of years, but you do have now Carpet One, which is relocated there. And I don't have any information as to specific names, but I am aware that the other Peyton Wells buildings have been sold. So hopefully we'll look to see something positive going in there. Some of you may have also noticed the activity going on at Cross Street and Broadway. Those old buildings there are being taken down, and I understand there will be a Rickers located there, and I understand it's going to be one of their nicer facilities that they have. A cold beer or no cold beer. So stay tuned on that one, I guess. I could put my state senate hat and talk about that, but maybe not. And then finally, on Columbus Avenue, the parking lot just south of the old Madewell's ice cream shop, you're going to see just got a plat accepted by the Board of Works for there to be a Dollar General store to locate there. So there's a lot of things going on economically here in the city of Anderson. The mayor has taken the philosophy that he's willing to talk to anybody at any time and almost anywhere about coming to the city of Anderson and doing business in the city of Anderson. And he wants to help the existing businesses that we have. He wants to make them understand that the city of Anderson is there to help them. And he knows that we have our challenges, but we also feel very positive about things that could happen here in the city of Anderson and happen hopefully on a fairly relatively soon basis. A couple other things I want to mention going on. Talked about community development and redevelopment. We have our blight elimination program, the BEP program, which is operated through our community development department. And we have really ramped up what we're trying to do to take down some of the abandoned premises you see around here in Anderson. It's a shame. There's too many of them. We know that. There's too many absentee landlords. I have to deal with this as a city attorney on a regular basis. So you try to locate somebody, a mortgage company or somebody who's taken the property back and they're in Texas or someplace else, and they really don't give a hoot about what can be done here in Anderson, and we end up having to deal with those. But we have ramped up our activities in trying to remove those unsafe businesses, or those unsafe buildings, I should say. When Mayor Broderick came in 2016, the year before, there had been less than 10 of those homes that had been demolished. We've been able to demolish 37 in the time that he's been in office since January of 2016. There have been, that's through the BEP program. There are other means available to also take down buildings, so that's not the total number of unsafe buildings that have been eliminated, but through the blight elimination program, 37 demolitions have occurred. 10 more properties are ready to go. There's additional 42 properties beyond that that the city has acquired and will hopefully, once funding comes through, be able to address those issues. And so that the city is looking at a total of 130 total unsafe structures that will have been taken down by hopefully the end of next year with the funding that we have. So those are important things too that we're dealing with. Finally, the mayor wants me to mention that we have hired, I believe it was 5 firefighters here in the past. We're getting ready to look at, I think it's 5 additional policemen to be hired for the police department. Public safety is obviously a priority of this administration. And the Parks and Recreation programs, I want to end on that note and then take any questions that you might have. We are starting. We have been able to secure the funding to have a summer Parks and Recreation program again this year. And there will be, let's see here, 4 sites, I want to say, for that, but I can't seem to find my note on it. Here that is. It's called the Summer Kids Program. I think it's set to kick off sometime, I believe, Monday of next week, I think it is. And the 4 sites are the Anderson Elementary School, the Geter Center, 10th Street Elementary School, and the Liberty Christian Middle School. They're open. The program's open to kids kindergarten through 6th grade. It will include activities not only on those sites, but also field trips. Mayor wants me to remind you of 2 very important events. We have a number of events that are going to be occurring through the City Parks Department. The Southside Pool will open on June 4th. Here's a good one. On July 2nd, there's a trip to see the Cincinnati Reds versus the Chicago Cubs. So, and if you're interested in that, it's for $60, you get a game ticket, a seat on the bus, and you get to see a great game. So let me know if you're interested in that. I'll tell you how to pursue that. And then, of course, the July 3rd parade will be occurring again downtown. And last but not least, they want me to remind you, I don't know why your group would be particularly interested in this, but Brewfest is this Saturday, and it's from 2 o'clock to 5 p.m. at the town center. So those are some of the good things that the mayor wanted me to tell you about. But he certainly wants me to congratulate the club on the great work that it has done for our community. It's doing right now, and I can't tell you how much he appreciates what you're doing. You know, this is probably a term that most of us didn't know about until, maybe the last several years. I became aware of that term, food desert, and I started thinking of, well, that must be, places like Indianapolis or whatever, but it's right here. And if that happens, that's exactly what we're going to have. So it is a priority. I know the mayor is concerned about it, and I can't tell you for sure if they've had any particular discussions with the Oldies or the Paylesses, or even, maybe another chain that might be interested. But it seems like there would be an opportunity there. So your point's well taken. It's something we do need to follow through on. I'll mention it to our building commissioner's office. All those inspections are done through the building commissioner's office. And I can't tell you for sure if that's on the list or not. I know they have a list that they're getting to. And there's a process we have to go through when it comes to unsafe buildings like that. And some owners are cooperative, many are not, and we have to take it through the full legal process. But I'll mention it to the building commissioner's office. I'd say probably about 2 months ago now, it was brought to my attention that there was a possibility of a reconfiguration of the project, and I was shown a proposal that encompassed sort of what you're talking about, moving it farther west, all within Madison County, because of Delaware County obviously has voiced they don't have an interest in it. So yes, I can tell you that I can confirm to you that that proposal is still there. Now, I have not really heard anything concrete since that time. So, but I think there is still a very, very strong possibility that will move forward at some point. We bid all those out through the Board of Public Safety. And we have a list of pre-qualified contractors, and there's a number of them, 5, 6, or 7, I'd say as many as that. Usually when we accept quotes, as they're called, for those, we may have as many as 5 or 6. Usually it's 3 or 4 contractors have gotten out, looked at what they think is going to be the cost. And for a standard, home, former residents to come down, you're probably looking at somewhere between $4,500 to $8,000, just depending on exactly what's all entailed. I've seen some buildings which are more than that, and of course, you get into commercial structures, they can be much more than that, and that gets to be a real problem because of the funding. No, it can be the quote process seems to make things pretty competitive. What would I say, just pulling a figure out of the air as to what the average quote would be? I'd say probably around $7,000, something like that. And there's a requirement, they're pre-qualified because we want people who are going to follow through and do what they say. There are time limits in terms of them getting the job done. We also even reserve the right that if one contractor gets too many and we see they're not going to be able to, they're going to get backlogged, that we can shift it to the second lowest bidders in a given situation. So. Yeah, I can tell you a little bit about that. Of course, what happened there was the city owns the former armory there on Madison Avenue, and has, I think, since the 1950s or something, but many years ago then entered into a long-term lease with the United States Army. At some point, the United States Army, I think it was in 2015 maybe, indicated that they were not interested in keeping that lease. And so arrangements were made legally to terminate the lease. And at that time, that's when the trustee was interested in starting the Girls and Boys Club. And so the city basically did not have a use for the building at that point in time. So we entered into a lease with the trustee on some very favorable terms for the trustee. The city did provide, I think, what the mayor would probably characterize as some seed money in this year, in 2017, a total of $100,000 basically, to help fund the programs that are there. There are programs ongoing right now within that building, and I'd encourage you to stop by there and to see what's going on, because it's a number of different activities, some athletic, type of based activities, but they also have mentoring activities going on. I believe there's some computer stations that are located there. So there are plans to continue on with the program there, as is the case almost always. It's a matter of funding going forward, and I think that's probably the big issue, which has to be resolved on an ongoing basis. The mayor's, I think, made it fairly clear he wasn't opposed in any way to the seed money, if you will, to help it get going, but that he doesn't necessarily feel the city should be the sole funder for that operation, and I think the trustee understands that. So a lot of that is in the, of course, the hands of the trustee, but I think we see a lot of good things going on there. We like to see it continue. There may be some ways to partner with the city of Anderson in terms of parks and recreation or what have you going forward, but that's maybe my thought more than anybody else's. I can't say for sure that's the case, but I'm absolutely certain that the city would be interested in continuing to do that. It seems that we probably need to have a discussion with them about exactly where Habitat for Humanity is. I know they've built probably hundreds of homes in Madison County, but by this time now, and so I think we would really be interested in trying to continue that effort. I think it's a good effort. I think that you raise a good question about what happens with the lots once the structures come down and what. Empty lots. Yeah, right. Right. And you need to try to utilize them in some fashion. Yeah. All right, I'll mention it to the mayor. That does remind me, though, some good news there is that we think there should be some additional dollars for paving this year. As you probably might have followed, put my state senate hat here. We did pass a budget which included an infrastructure program, and that will result in a flow of some additional dollars back to local communities too, for local roads and streets. The city's not sure exactly what that amount will be, but it's hopeful there will be additional dollars to do some paving, and this is something that we can take a look at. I do.